everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another office hours session. Let me just share my screen so we're all on the same page here. My name is Matthew, Customer Success Manager here at Juice Technologies. We have Keith and Justin on with us today. I'll let them introduce themselves quickly.
It's Justin.
I'm Keith.
And I am Justin.
Yeah, well, again, we appreciate you guys coming, week in and week out. Just as we always touch on, this is meant for the Quickbase Add-Ons specifically. If you have a question, and could you please go to the reactions section to raise your hand? That would be awesome. We're going to try to keep this to about 5 to 7 minutes per question. Obviously, if we go over that, that means it's a good question, so no issues there. And everyone's going to be able to get a link back to our help site, which is going to have recorded copies with timestamps for all of these. If I just quickly go, I'll be able to show you guys our help site quick. And that will, I'll show you just where you can go to get some additional information. I did not go over today's topic yet, but I'll jump back to that. I see we already got some hands raised. That's awesome. So you know what, without further ado, let's go straight to that. So I'll stop sharing. And I believe we have Warren with his hand raised first. So Warren, you are up.
Hi guys, how you doing? This is Warren Willis. Hey, I've got a question in Exact Forms Plus. In fact, what I want to do is I want to share my screen with you, if you don't mind. Can I do that?
That'd be awesome.
Hey Warren, just we do record these, so just be careful with the information you share because we do put these up on our website. So
okay, good comment. Actually, let me think about that for a second.
Thanks,
I
Keith.
guess there's nothing confidential. I don't think there's anything unless you guys are buying aircraft. I think we're okay. So can you see that screen?
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so this is actually an output from Exact Forms Plus out of data. Obviously, you can see the fact that it's on aircraft-related activities. It's actually a technical specification document. Oh, by the way, I'm a QSP also, but this is one of my customers. The battle we're having is this: is that on Exact Forms Plus, you can see the fact that we have a date situation here for you can call out the actual month of the actual month acronym for the date itself, and that's great. That's fantastic, except when you go into an individual form that's being pulled into the system. The battle we have is the fact that this company is actually a multinational company. So we've got guys in the US, in Ireland, and also in the UK. And all of a sudden, we have a date-related issue that we've got to kind of work on to try to figure out how to manage this, because obviously in Europe, that date format does not match up with what their date format is. And so the question I guess I have to you guys is whether or not there's any way to basically do a workaround, first off, because that sounds like I can't find anything in the Exact Forms Plus to be able to kind of automatically go to a formatting structure for dates. And then also, if there isn't one, is there a possibility of actually addressing this with respect to some enhancements or upgrades with respect to Exact Forms Plus? And then I'll stop here.
Yeah, Warren, the dates in that little grid, is that coming off of a subtable? So is that child data?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
because we don't have any formatting options for child data. So the workaround would really be you'd have to create a formula text field in Quickbase in your subtable, and you can control the formatting that way and then display that field instead of the field.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've got hundreds of different types of dates. So
okay,
it really becomes almost impossible to kind of manage that way.
No, what we're going to have to do is then we could add an option into the subtable configurator to not only choose a date, but then go into advanced settings and choose a date format. But that's going to have to be an enhancement. It's a good one. No one's really asked us for that one, like at least pushed that one for. But the option is that we could do that where choose a date, click advanced settings, and then choose your date format, and then we can handle it that way.
Yeah, it would be great to be able to do that because, again, like I say, this is an international company. So anyone that you deal with internationally is going to be the same issue. It's this constant battle.
No, it's a good point. In Quickbase, you probably heard a lot about Quickbase's move towards internationalizing their platform.
Yep.
So it's
This is what I've been screaming at them about for years.
No,
Yeah.
we're gonna make note of that, Warren, and I'm gonna put that on my modification list. I appreciate the question, because again, all of the changes that come out of our add-ons are usually driven on. by
Understand.
So
Understand. No problem. Okay, that was mine.
great.
Okay.
Thanks, Warren.
Okay, so next up we have Alan. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Hey, guys, my name is Aline. I have a couple of questions. Both of them are for Exact Forms Plus. One of them is, so I'm looking to add a specific verbiage that's the same every time at the bottom of a area in the Exact Forms Plus. And I don't want to put it in the footer. I could share my screen and show you if that's okay.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome. So, and this is for one of our clients. So I would like to add something to the bottom of this section in here. And I could also show you the form itself.
Just a heads up, Alan, I think we're looking at the wrong screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me move this here. I'm sorry.
No
Okay,
worries.
so there's the form, and this is, it's coming from a related child, this section in here, and I want to put something else here on the bottom. It's going to be different for every record. Some of them will have 10 of these related childs, other will have however many, 100. But I could show you. So this is orders. So the work orders are here. So this is where I'd like to add it. Like I said, it's going to be repeating every time. And I only want it once on the form. So if it's multiple pages, I want it to the bottom of this section on the last page.
Yeah, but if you put it right after the STRID, if you put it in a line right after the STRID, as the STRID grows, it should only show up once at the bottom.
So it's not gonna. What if this is larger than my section here? Is that not gonna have any kind of? Well, it's not gonna run it over.
Yeah, it'll page break to the next page. Like if you have 50 line items in STRID 3, whatever that is, it'll jump to the next page, and that one piece of text that you put right where your cursor is now will appear. It'll appear right after the last line item, so it could be where your cursor is. It could be at the bottom. It's going to fluctuate.
Okay. All right. Good. Great. That's a good one. Then that's an easy one. So I have this second form, and I want to, in this STRID 1, I want to have a total. This is where I attempted to do it.
Right, so if you go into advanced settings on that field that you want to, you have to first choose the field you want to total. So if you want to total labor, you go into advanced settings and then click subtotal and grand total. If you're not grouping, then you can just do subtotal.
Okay.
And then, then you can control the total. Like once you apply those changes and then you hit save changes, when you go to your sorting and grouping options there, you can control how that subtotal line is going to look. So the subtotal label options and grand total label options, you can colorize the row. You can decide which column in the grid is going to show the word grand total. So in this case, in the column total labor, you're going to show the word grand total.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I got.
Just a heads up right now, in that grand total label section, you have both those text displays would kind of overwrite each other, correct, Keith?
Well, one in the subtotal is going to show grand total, and then the total is going to show total.
Yeah.
But if you're not grouping, the only one that's going to show is the
So
grand total.
I apologize then, because maybe I'm phrasing it wrong. Alan, can you go back to the subtable fields? The third one, yeah. So you're doing it on total labor? Is that the field that you're subtotaling?
Yes.
So won't that
Yeah,
show the text?
you should
where-
probably choose the column labor.
Yep.
Because that's the one next to total labor. So
Not on this tab, on the sorting and grouping tab.
yeah, go to the sorting and grouping tab and choose, instead of total labor, choose labor. Because that's really where the text, what column you want the text to appear, not the total itself. The total is going to appear under the grand total line. So
Got it.
So yeah, you just, because this way it goes next to it.
Understood. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for your help.
Yep. No problem. Just make sure to save it.
Yep.
Right. Great.
So next up we have Francesco. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, everyone. So I got a few questions. At the warehouse here in New Orleans, we're doing delivering receipts through Quickbase, and we're using Exact Form Plus. And recently we bought QB signatures. So the first question is, I'm having some issues with the redirect of the signatures to go from the web browser back to the Quickbase app. If I do it in the straight into the web browser, no problem. It redirects just fine, but it doesn't redirect to the app. It's not a huge issue, but I wonder if you have a fix for that. And so once the signature is applied, I'm using Exact Form Plus batch to recreate the form. And I'm having some trouble with the batch processing arguments. The setup, the auto setup works great. I can use the field to repopulate the attachment, but if I want to save it into a different table, then I'm struggling adjusting the batch process, the arguments there to make it work in a child table attachments.
Right.
So that's I don't know if you can help me with that, and if it's an easy fix. And lastly, we were looking at the settings for the tables in the Exact Form Plus. I'm wondering if you can have the headers of your table repeated on the next page.
Question number one, just for clarity, I think you're talking about using the signature add-on on a mobile device, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we have some challenges with redirecting or allowing the screen to refresh on the Quickbase mobile app itself, because obviously our add-ons run outside of Quickbase, so they run on our own servers, so we can't refresh inside of the Quickbase mobile app. So that's why it's working for you in the browser on the mobile, because we can control that. But because it's running inside of the Quickbase mobile application, that's the underlying problem there. So I don't know if we really have a fix for that. We've tried to figure out ways around it, but it's because it's inside of the mobile app. So sorry about that one.
And we could use the browser. I mean, at the end, it will show up like an app.
Right. And number two, for your batch processing, so it sounds like you want, when you run the batch processor, instead of overwriting the file in the same file attachment field, you want to send the file to another table?
Yes.
Right.
I can show you what I have if you don't mind me sharing the screen.
But you're gonna end up using, that's kind of what's called repository. So we have repository functionality.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of parameters on a help site for repository. And I think Justin can probably find that and maybe put that link in the chat so everybody can jump to the help site.
This was created automatically when I submitted, the request in the cloud.
Right.
But actually, I have another process in a different button that does create the receipts in the repository. And I wonder if I can use this Let me,
Yes, because actually, when you really look at what in our EFP batch arguments field, it's really the same parameters. It's just we take off the ampersand and we don't use the URL like the HTTPS www. So like if you looked at those, very similar. So all of those line 17, that's your repository parameters.
so
So
I
if you
can,
scroll down like that line 17, that starts your repository parameters. So if you were to copy those, line 17 through 25 and put those in your EFP arguments field. So if you copy those and put them in there and just remove your comment, you can remove the ampersand in front of every one of those.
so no ampersand,
No
just a
ampersand, but you need a
space.
space, yes, so it would be, so, exactly. And the other thing is, you see how you have a space for the RPK value to match. That,
RPK. Oh, right here.
that could be a challenge, because one of the things with our arguments is we can't have any spaces. If we do, you have to escape them. So you'd have to escape that, and by doing that, you have to put it in double quotes.
So this field should not.
Not 6 is fine, but in front of the D on line 26.
Oh,
You-
right here.
Yes, you want to make sure that that comes out in double quotes. So in other words, slash, you'd have to put a slash double quote.
Where exactly? In the middle here?
No, in front of the D.
Oh,
Slash double
slash.
quote. And then go down to the T after in the word receipt and do the same thing, slash double quote. Another one. And get rid of the other one. What did I do wrong? Now jump in here. What did I do wrong?
I think there has to be a second quote before the word delivery.
Yeah. Put a double. And then you might have to end it with another one. Because really what you need to do is you need to make sure that that comes to us as, like, say, one combined field. Forget how we do that. I always forget how to do those escaping.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys can send me some instructions on,
Right.
or worst case scenario, I'm gonna get rid of I'm gonna drop the space and change it everywhere in the app.
Well, you
Put
can't
the quote
drop,
before the slash, and you want it to be the other direction slash.
Oh, it's
Put the quote before, put the first
oh,
quote,
that's right. You have to end after the equal sign.
because the slash is, you want quotes around the thing that you're quoting. So put a quote there, and then get rid of that other one. And then at the end, you want to slash before the last one, because you're keeping that as a real quote in the thing. You got one too many in there, but okay, that should do it. But you have one too many after receipt.
oh, right here.
You want to get rid of that one. But why is it still coming up yellow?
I think it's the other way though, isn't it? I don't think that's the right slash. I know, Carrie, you know this better than me.
It's not giving them either. What's the error thing?
I have this in my
It's
demos.
very tiny. Well, you're already quoting that line, right? So you have like a quote inside a quote inside a quote.
Yes, it's already, the quote starts here. So
But I think your slashes are going in the wrong direction.
you think this is the,
Right, because the other direction is for like comments, but I don't know why you're. So the whole thing is already, are you trying to put delivery receipt in quotes? Sorry, I started listening halfway through this
Yes.
conversation. So you don't need to requote before, you just get rid of that after equal sign, get rid of that quote. And then at the end, get rid of.
now it seems to be
No,
working.
That should work. Yeah,
that's
that should
good.
do it.
That's
Yeah.
good. Okay. because the word
Sorry.
deliver receipt, you're going to try to find that value. That's why you don't want to get rid of the space. But really, what you're doing here is now you're mimicking what's happening in your button click. So this should now, when the batch processor is fired, it should end up taking that file and sending it off to the repository table. Now, the only thing is up above in line 8 and line 9, it's updating file attach. So if you took it, you should really make sure these parameters match your button parameters.
All right. Basically, I need to
Exactly.
reproduce exactly what I'm doing right here in that, but in
Exactly. You just want to make sure
field.
that in the arguments you include type equals EFP batch. That's one of the differences, and which you already have in your arguments.
Let me ask you a question related to this. I'm gonna stop sharing. When I trigger the EF plus batch, now it's gonna create the document and I put in the attachments. And then I'm triggering the courier to deliver the DR. Are these two processes separate, or they will happen in sequence? Meaning the first one needs to happen and then the second automation will run, or they're independent and I might get, the previous version that doesn't have the signature.
No, they run. We don't run through automation, so they'll run through. Usually they're fired through email notifications, and usually you set up the courier email notification to fire after the EFP date field is updated or created. Or in the case where if you're using the repository table, when a record is added into the repository table and it's added from exact forms plus batch processor, then you would fire your courier. So it's really controlled by your email notification that you set up to fire courier. So you can set up your filtering criteria however you want.
Whatever notification goes out first, that's the first one that's going to be executed. Okay.
Yes, right. So the first one should go out as the batch processor, which will generate the document. And then you set up another one off the repository table to fire courier to download the file and send it.
Right. That's how it happens. We put on the signature, and then the tracker or whoever is taking the delivery receipt is going to choose if he wants it printed, and it's going to trigger the courier at that point, which will trigger a new notification. All right.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you to the
All right,
pros.
great.
Next up, we have Jennifer. Welcome back, Jennifer. Let's hear your question.
All right. Well, my question has to do with Exact Forms Plus also. And last week, there was a little bit of discussion about the add files parameter that you could use in Exact Forms Plus. And I made a note of it because I thought it might be something that would be useful. And it turns out that it is. But let me describe my scenario, and you can tell me if it's something that I can do so that I don't spend a lot of time chasing down something that is not possible. So I have my parent table that is where I generate my form from. And there are two child tables, and one of them is basically just an attachments table, so I can have multiple attachments. And a lot of times it's just a photograph, which prints out just fine on the form. But I also have cases, as I'm discovering, where they're attaching PDF files, and I would like to be able to have those just be added on to the back of my form, which was my understanding what I can use the add files to do. But what I have is I have, an unknown number of potential child records for each parent. And so what I really want is I really want to go through and have however many there are add on to the end. Is that something that I can do?
Because it's a variable number, that's going to be challenging because let me share my screen quick here. Okay, you guys see my help site, right?
Yes.
All right. Here's the add files. So when you want to get child-related data, you have to specify in add files the DB ID of the table the record ID of the record in the table that you want to grab the file from, and then the field ID of the file attachment field. So this is critical right here, is knowing what record ID you want to grab the file, what record ID you want to grab out of that subtable that has the file that you're looking for. So if you can't somehow have the record IDs located on your master table, it's going to be hard for you to do this, because this is known because those are static, they don't change. This is what's going to change. So if you don't know the record ID of the records you want, you're not going to be able to do that.
And that's kind of what I was seeing. And one idea I thought of, but I'm relatively new to Quickbase, so this may be pie in the sky, but I was wondering if it might be possible to have a field in my parent table that I essentially just build that add files, and it can have multiple entries, and maybe use a pipeline to, when I add or even delete child records, that it would just go through and rebuild that parent field every time. Is that something that potentially would work?
Yeah, you could do that. You can also rebuild it if you have a relationship, which you do, between your master and your child, and you can create some type of summary field that brings the record IDs up to the master table. And then you can build out a formula field that does this and then just concatenates them along. That's another option. I've seen people do that, but you can use pipelines to manage that if it's volatile data, meaning the subtable data could change, records could be added, deleted, and would change the records, the files that you need to append.
Okay, well, maybe I'll look at the summary. I mean, I've done some stuff with summary fields, so I know what you're talking about, but as far as bringing in the record IDs, that's not something I've looked at. So I'll maybe have to have a look at that as well. And then, like you say, just have a formula field to build out my add files. And kind of a related question is, Exact Forms Plus is the add files, because some of my attachments may be like JPEGs and some will be PDFs. Will it just ignore the ones, or is that going to cause problems? Do I have to somehow try and figure out which ones are PDFs?
No, I'm pretty sure if it's not a PDF, we ignore it.
Okay.
I'm not positive though.
That is positive. Okay.
But it has to be a PDF in order for it to work. I don't know if we ignore it if it's not. Well, I think we might ignore it if it's not and just say, all right, well, we can't handle this one, so we're not going to error it out. We're just going to not do it.
Okay, well, that's worth giving a try and not paying any attention to it and see. So I will try that and see.
And the other thing, when you build your relationship, one of the things you could do is you can create, when you're creating your summary field, you can have your filtering criteria to say, okay, if the status is active, give me the max record ID number of the status record that's active. The max record ID will be the record ID that you'll pull up as the summary value. Just as a little tip when you're doing that. So that might help you build out. So I'm not sure what your filtering criteria is going to be, but that's just an example. Use max value for the field that you're choosing, which would be record ID, and that will help you get that record ID back up to the master.
Hey Keith, I don't know if you're monitoring the chat, but Manal and Kira have both little tidbits about.
Okay. Share, Kira, go ahead, share.
She wrote it out. She wrote, tricky thing about summary fields is that you will want to use the combined text option. So you will need to have the formula in the child to convert the record ID number field to text so that you can use it in the summary field.
Good
Or
point.
you could do what Manal said, which is use a formula query. But those, sometimes you'll find those harder to set up.
Yeah, I know, and
They're fussy.
I'm not a big fan of the formula queries only because of performance issues.
And the other thing that she can use is our merger to get all the files. So it
Yes.
won't, you don't have to worry about any extension or PDF. It will merge all the JPEGs and PDFs into one file.
See, now I'll just put a sales hat on. Thank you,
And
Manal.
what I could use
No.
what? I'm sorry, I missed what I could use.
We have another add-on called PDF Merger. And what that does is it can pull files, any type of file, or most types of files. So it doesn't have to be just PDFs from a child table. So if you had an email message, a JPEG, a bitmap, a Word document, Excel file, it doesn't matter which ones, we convert those to PDF and then we can pull them all together into one file. And then you can merge that one file into your Exact Forms Plus file with add files. Or you can use the merge file, the PDF merger in general, and merge them all together, the Exact Forms Plus document and all the child related documents.
Okay, I will make a note of that. I mean, it's good to have different options, so that's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't see any hand raised at this point. Does anyone else have questions where we're at? And for those of you who have asked questions, it is greatly appreciated. That is, you know, the whole purpose of these meetings is to answer as many questions as possible. So again, we do definitely appreciate it. I'll give everyone another minute. Okay. If not, you know, we have a quick topic we could share today as well. And that's just our Juiced Cloud setup wizards. And we're not going to go through all of them today, but we are going to go through a bunch. And I just wanted to touch on a few. So before we get started, one thing I wanted to put out there is, and I'm just going to share my screen again, is we have two ways you could actually access these, and that's within the cloud itself, but you could also access them through our website. And one note about this is not the recommended way to do it if you are already an existing customer. So if you were to go into our website and go to add-ons, add-on setup wizards, and then start free trial for any of these, let's say you're interested in learning more about signatures. When you click on that request, it's going to take you to a familiar looking wizard, which you might be, you know, interested in filling in. But you notice here at the bottom, it says Quickbase account URL. The reason why we have this here is this is for majority prospective new customers who are not on the Juice Cloud already. So if you are already on the Juice Cloud, please be conscious to do the setups from here, because that is definitely the recommended and safest way to go about doing this. One other thing before we get into doing it on the Juice Cloud is we've actually started recommending that you add a button on your application dashboard to the Juice Cloud as well. That's just one way to ensure that you do not necessarily forget where to go or lose track of where to go. So if you go to this button bar, and I'll just add it here, if you click on URL, you can actually just, and I'll log out for a second, you can take this login, put in the URL, click off, and you may want to change the name just so that it says Juiced Cloud. And then from there, once you save it, you can click right in. That's something that we've been recommending lately, just as another way so you don't forget where to go, in case you want to install it in other applications or just to check on some other stuff within there. So let me log back in right now. I'll jump into my Builder account. So just before I get started, you know, I do see that we have some other folks joining in as well. You know, the 2:30 mark, people could be coming off meetings. Is there any specific wizard or question that someone may have at this time before I go forward with today's topic? Madan, I see.
Yeah, I had a specific question. I had an error message that I just couldn't decipher, and I was hoping to get pointers from you guys.
Okay.
Should I just share my screen and hit the error message and show you what's going on, or?
Yeah, I think that might be best.
Okay, let me get to the good point there. Okay, so it's Excel docs, and I have a create Excel sheet, and I get an error message saying column. Okay, now I got a different error message. Quickbase error 3 report is unavailable because none of the fields used as columns can be shown.
I think what would be best is to jump into the document templates table so we can see the subtables as well.
Yeah, and what I did to simplify my debugging effort, I got rid of the subtables, and I just. So right now I'm using template 2. I deleted all subtables. I just have a C list of these two guys, and can share the template. So this is the template. So I just said in D7, stick in field ID 171, and D8, 174. And what I did just as I was trying to debug is I said, okay, let me get rid of, I just have one FID there, or one C list, and that worked fine. As soon as I added the second one, I started getting the error. Oh, no, I still got the error.
Yeah, can you just see which one you're clicking when you do that? If you right click and edit the field properties of that, I just want to make sure that we're looking at the correct template.
Template ID 2.
Yep.
And document templates, template ID 2. Just one C list in there. That's the file.
And you're just trying to get one field after the other.
Yeah.
Hey, Madan, could you just put a blank template as a template file in there?
Oh, just like an empty Excel file?
Yeah, let's just see what that, because I just want to rule out the template.
Got it. Where did I save my blank template? So, I picked this up from somebody else, and I'm trying to piece it together. So maybe should I tell you what the table structure is, or is that irrelevant at this point?
Actually, if you could send me the link, I could run this while Matthew continues, and I'll give you an answer.
When you say link, what was the link you're looking for?
Right in the top and right in that address bar. There you go.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
Can you just put it in the chat or yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Got it.
Hey Todd, that's going to
Thanks.
be base 64 encoded as well, so you know.
Have him email it. Why don't you email that, Madden, instead?
Yeah, just because I have the decoder if you need.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right. So I appreciate you asking that. Definitely a little weird on that one. I'm not sure if there was existing subtables or something in there. I see, you did say you deleted them all, but I'm sure Todd will be able to get to the bottom of that. All right. Let me just jump back in on the share for now, and Manon, if we can get an answer for you, we'll jump back in. So as many of you know, and as we've gone over in previous meetings, in order to move forward with authorizing a new application for any one of our add-ons, when you click that button right there, authorize new application, you can either use an existing user token or a new user token. And something I just want to go through for those of you who don't know is how to get to your own user token. So if you're within here, you have a couple different user tokens that you can get to. Where did my builder account go? And when you're in here, you're going to want to go to Hi, your name in the top right corner, My Preferences, and Manage My User Tokens. And you see a bunch of them here. When you go to grab any of these, you just copy it, go back to the cloud, and paste that in. Once it reads the user token and decides which applications it has access to, with this one, it's relationships. You're able to select one or of the many potentially. And you have the option to do authorize only, no setup. For most cases, you won't need that. But we have a little tidbit here for that.
Yeah, just one point. The reason why you would choose that is maybe you have Exact Forms Plus or an add-on already set up in the application, and you don't need to create all of the tables and structure and so on because you copied it from another app. You would use the authorize only just so that we know about that app and it can run. So that's the only reason why authorize only is there, because you don't need, in this case, Exact Forms Plus to have document templates and subtables because they're already there and the fields are already there. So it just authorizes the app.
Thanks, Keith. So you would check that off if that is the case, and that would be the end of this. But assuming that you do not have the fields or tables set up, you would hit next. And on the setup page, it's going to ask you which table you would like this on. As you can see, I do already have some of our add-ons installed here, but I'll just press activities again. You have the option for doc or PDF, as well as use standard template or use custom template. When you choose custom, you can select from your files. So I can just pick sample 2.0 and finish.
And another point there is, even though Matt already had document templates and subtables in there, it didn't recreate them. It recognized that those tables were already there. So it did set up the table he selected. It just didn't add those other tables because they already existed.
Correct. Yes, it did add the 4 fields to execute Exact Forms Plus, but nothing.
Yeah, but the query system bring that. Excuse me, should bring this.
Hey Todd, yeah, there you go. So that's Exact Forms Plus, and I know we've gone over that one a few times, but I wanted to kind of open it up to the room to see if anyone else had, questions or wanted to go over a specific wizard right now. I can go through any one of them, and if I go back to our to our website here, you can see these are all the add-ons that we have a DIY wizard for. So if there's not,
So Jennifer said, how about PDF merger, considering it looks like she might need it?
Well, Jennifer, you touched on one of the things we were going to talk of that actually came from a support ticket that we received. Not all add-ons come with a setup wizard. So PDF merger is one of the few that does not have a setup wizard. That does not mean that we do not have setup for it. So here we have the steps, 3 easy steps to set up PDF merger on your own. This is one of the help site pages, so I'll just throw this in the chat as well. This is where you can get all the fields necessary to do the setup. And the only thing is, just as Keith was mentioning for Exact Forms Plus, we do need to authorize your application to use this. So this part is just asking you to send us an email with the app ID and user token you would want to use for PDF merger. And we of course are also available for questions. We have the office hours as well if you're working on this setup and you find that you are confused or would like assistance, but you have the steps here. We also have some additional setups that you can look at, as well as just the parameters that are used during the setup. So we have some resources for sure, but unfortunately PDF merger is one of the add-ons that we do not have a setup wizard for. But Jennifer, that's a great question. And that definitely tied into something we were going to talk about, which is not every add-on has a setup wizard. Again, for those of you who do want to set up one of the add-ons that does not have a setup wizard, just reach out to us and we'll send you everything required to get started.
And we're working on those other add-ons that we don't have a setup wizard for. So hopefully we'll have PDF merger up and running within the next couple of months. But right, this page here tells you all the ones that we do have a wizard for.
Maybe PDF Stamper was mixed up there. It's pretty close. But speaking of, we could do a PDF Stamper one. So let's see if I were to go and authorize another app for.
You know what? One second before you go close that.
Yep.
One
Which
thing.
one?
Close that window. No, go back. Stay there. I'm sorry. Close that window for the Stamper. You notice there's two things that we offer for setting up. Like Matthew clicked authorize a new application. So that means, all right, you have a different application you want PDF Stamper to be installed in, but you can also have an existing application already set up for PDF Stamper that you just want to set up another table in that app, or maybe you want to set up the same table twice. Set up another table is what you would want to do if you want to either set up the same table twice or another table in an app that's already set up. Go ahead.
Yep. No, thanks, Keith. That's a good point, and I definitely should have touched on it. If you notice, this will actually skip you to the very last step of the setup wizards because we already have identified the user token and we also have identified the app. So for PDF Stamper, and this is not for all of them, the only thing left would be to select the table that you'd want it in. And of course, for PDF Stamper, it's going to be in PDF. So there's no option there. And then again, you could select either the standard or the custom. So I'll just finish that one as well. And that's for setting up another table in the same app, and you get those 3 fields. And the other one I was interested in showing you guys today was either DocuSign or QB Maps, but I think we'll show QB Maps today. So QB Maps is one of the ones that has a few different things to touch on. So I'm going to go in and authorize another app. And again, I'm on trial, so that's why it looks the way it does. And if I were to enter, let's grab the same user token from before. I'm going to pick the application that's assigned to that user token. And this is, as you can see, a bit different than the other setup wizards that you've seen, because there's a couple different fields that we need to review when getting QB Maps set up. So select the address table. So I'm going to go with companies. And you see now I could select from fields here. So select the field which identifies the name of the location. For me, address seems like the logical choice. And then select the field for the mentioned properties of each location. So select address. For this one, I'm going to use street 1. City, I'm going to use address city. State, state/region. And zip code, I'm going to use postal code. So that's what you would fill in there. If you don't already have those fields, you can create them, or I'm pretty sure we should have had an option for create new field. If not, you just want to create the fields that match address.
Yeah, usually
city.
the address field, we usually expect the address fields to be there since you want to set up a table that already has locations. And that second one, you probably want to use the company name as the name of the location because you already have the address. You don't want to duplicate fields just because it could cause some issues.
Okay. Yep. So company. Choose 3 fields which will be displayed in the info, and if you want an example, shows it here what it would be displaying. So, it's 3 fields to show when you're looking at QB Maps. So for this one, I want to use company, and for the second one, I want to use potentially, let's say, account manager, and for the third, I'm going to leave it blank. We don't need to have all three, so we're just going to leave that one blank. For the map dimensions, these are the standard dimensions. So I'm going to leave these the way they are. If you'd want to change them, you can do that here as well, but I'm going to keep them as they are. And then this is where we go through the query itself. So for this one, I'll say the number of current contacts is not equal to, and I'll add a static value of 0. So basically we have to have a current contact in order to be viewing this on the map, and you just hit add filter. So each one of these has a little note here, and help you get your questions answered. If you're confused on this at any point, you can either refer back to this video or reach out to support. But obviously the last step here is just to finish or to add additional filters. But for now, that's all I want. So I'll just finish. Appropriate custom fields that will appear. I guess you need all three. So I'll say account created. And
the filter is very important there because you want to make sure that you don't, if you have thousands of records in a table, you obviously don't want to plot thousands of records on a map. So you want to make sure you put a filter in there to try to hone in on the locations you want to show on the map.
Yeah, as I might have said in the previous video, don't do record ID. It is not, it's not
greater than 0.
You will get everything. So yeah, that's one of the wizards that's not as standard, but if you hit refresh here, you'll see that it adds the new authorized app record. Obviously there was no last activity date, but that is one of the additional wizards. And we'd be happy to go through any more of these if you guys would like. If not, we will probably touch upon some of the other ones in some additional videos going forward. But for now, we have about 8 minutes left to the top of the hour. Do I put Todd on the spot and ask him if he's found the issue? If not,
Well, I'm going, actually, I got a permission issue, so I'll probably have to pick it up with Madonna offline. But when the query ran, it got a permission issue, so.
Understood. Okay, so we'll probably need to address that offline, Madonna. Appreciate you coming to ask that question. We'll definitely get back to you very soon on that. For now, I don't believe anyone else has any questions. If not, now is your time. We'd be happy to answer anything you have. Don?
No, I'm texting Todd to see if he's available right after this call. I'll follow up with him. I think there's something odd going on with that field because I swap out the field, it runs. So I got to figure out what it is about that field that it doesn't like.
Understood.
Might be an interesting one, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, for everyone else, we really appreciate you guys joining us. And please come and join us again next week, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So have a great one, everyone. And
thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate this. I think it's kind of nice to have this time I've jumped on. So appreciate it. Thanks, Matthew.
Yep. Thank
Bye.
you. All right.